Flying with Casey wants to know if I can explain the different kinds of altitude. I can. Let's see if I can do it in 3 minutes. The first kind of altitude is indicated altitude, and that is simply what you read off your altimeter. Whatever it's indicating, that is your indicated altitude. Next! The next one we have is true altitude. This is your height above sea level, no matter where you are. Even if you're like 5 feet over a mountain peak in the Rockies, your true altitude is how high you are above sea level. This is also known as your height in MSL, height above mean sea level. The next one we're going to talk about is your absolute altitude, also known as AGL, or height above ground level. So if you're in the mountain peaks in the Rockies and you're 5 feet over the mountain, your absolute altitude is 5 feet over the ground. That one's kind of important, right? A little bit. I think I got it right. Okay, moving on. Okay, now we're going to venture into the realm of hypotheticals and things that humans made up. Ready? Pressure altitude. Now we're going to talk about the two ones that confuse everybody. Pressure altitude and density altitude. Pressure altitude is whatever the altimeter reads when you set the altimeter setting or barometric pressure setting to 2.992 inches of mercury. I do not know what that is in hectopascals. Sue me, Europeans. And when would you use pressure altitude? You'll use pressure altitude whenever you're flying above the published transition altitude for that airport. In the United States, that's above 18,000 feet. Then you're flying in the flight levels. We call it a flight level because it's not really an altitude anymore, because you're not really telling the altimeter the outside air pressure. We're just going by this 1, 2, 9, or 9, or 2 things to make it easy when you're doing long distance flying. Last but not least, we're going to talk about density altitude, or what I like to call derp altitude. And the reason I call it that is because it's the only altitude that you will never fly. No one says, I'm going to go fly at density altitude today. Density altitude is a concept that's poorly named. In short, density altitude is the altitude at which the plane thinks it's derping out, the plane thinks it's flying at. So based on atmospheric conditions, humidity, temperature, pressure, things like that, the airplane could be at sea level, but it'll perform as if it's up at an altitude of 5,000 feet. That means that even though you're at sea level, you have a density altitude of 5,000 feet because the plane's going to perform as if it's already at 5,000 feet. As you know, what I'm saying, the plane has derp, doesn't know where it's at. It thinks it's at 5,000 feet. So I hope that helped answer your question. Do you have a question for the captain? Put us in the comments below. Maybe I'll answer it. And remember, when in doubt, just ASAP it.